I was gonna do this review shirtless. The thought passed through my mind. That would have been in true Bert Kreischer fashion and manner, but well, there's too many insecurities to do that right now.
He's the motherfucking machine!
Fine. I'm just gonna shoot him in the leg. Oh my god, I'm going to fucking hell! I killed a man!
Well, technically you killed several men.
And today we have The Machine. Not even 100% sure why I put off reviewing it. I didn't feel a pressing need to talk about this. If you don't know this, and I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't, if you just saw a trailer for this and you're like, who the hell is this guy? What is this? Why is it called The Machine? Alright, here's the thing. There's a comedian that exists called Bert Kreischer. Here he is, this old Berty Boi. I have a love-hate relationship with this man. For years, I started, first of all this, but this all makes sense in a minute. I'm a very big fan of the comedian Tom Segura. Tom Segura has been around for years and years. I love his comedy. I think he's hilarious. Him and his wife, very great. I found out he had a podcast called Your Mom's House, and I would watch Your Mom's House. And through Tom Segura and through Your Mom's House, the podcast, I discovered another comedian. Turns out they know each other and they are best friends. For better or for worse, they are best friends. And eventually, due to popular demand, after he was first featured on the Your Mom's House podcast, they came together to make their own podcast called Two Bears, One Cave, which is a good podcast. It's funny, hilarious at times, but here's the thing. There's the Bert that's the stand-up guy on stage, and then there's the Bert that reveals himself through podcasts, through conversation, and this man has a habit of just like talking and talking and talking, loves hearing the sound of his own voice. He'll dominate most conversations, make a way for any story to kind of revolve back to him, and then interrupt himself, and he's a funny but also frustrating man who says some of the funniest but also some of the dumbest and most ignorant things I've ever heard in my life. Whether a lot of it's to play a character and to play a part, whether any of it is he's even aware of it, I truly believe there are some moments where he just talks in a certain way. It just makes me angry and frustrated that this guy is where he is and has what he has and still says what he says and does what he does. He got famous due to the fact that on his comedy special, one of his big first ones, he has a story, and it's the story that's like crazy and fun and funny and has been told ad nauseum how when he was a kid and in school, they went to Russia and he was this like partying, burnout, an exchange student who gets involved with the Russian mob and then basically gets roped into a thing where he gets blasted drunk and with the Russian mafia robs a train that his own class is on in Russia. To his credit, it's a funny story, and he's always pitching ideas to the studios. For all of his flaws and all the hate that I might have for him in certain parts of my heart, I give him this. He is a master when it comes to marketing. When it comes to marketing and getting people excited about something or making ads or commercials or whatever, he pitched the idea of making the Machine story into a movie, and the studio was like, yeah, we'll take it, sold. It was revealed that he was going to be in it. He was going to be the star of it, obviously, but then also that Mark Hamill was going to play his father in this. And I love Mark Hamill, but I was like, oh my god, how's this going to go? The Machine is directed by a Peter Atencio, who does not have a large filmography. I mean, he has a lot of stuff. He's worked with comedians in the past, mostly like just sketch comedy. Like he's directed a lot of Key and Peele sketches and skits, and I do love Key and Peele. So this guy, I don't know if he got his start in the comedy business or if he just has those connections, but he's been working with comedy for a while. And then most notable in terms of films, I don't know if this was actually any good. I never watched it, but he did direct Keanu, about the talking cat. The Machine is supposed to basically be like a R-rated, raucous, drug and alcohol-fueled comedy of basically like all that happened with the train robbery, and now it like Bert kind of plays himself in a movie where he's like, oh yeah, now I'm a comedian, I'm successful and all this, but then his past catches back up with him when like the daughter of one of the guys that he robbed on the train comes and holds him and his father at gunpoint and is like, you're coming back to Russia because there's this pocket watch that I need to find to get claim and power of my family, so you need to come back, we got to track this down or else we're going to kill you. And then that's the movie, is having to go back to Russia as full-grown, old big-bellied Berty Boi here, while still having some intermittent flashbacks about the train robbery, and then try to mix in some heart, some humor, and all that jazz in the film as well. Critics didn't like it. Critics certainly didn't like it. You know what? This was an okay time. This was an okay time. This definitely wasn't a great film. I think the friends I went to go see this with enjoyed it more than I did. I think that my bias and how I feel about Bert Kreischer kind of colored my opinion of it going in, but I saw it in the theater, so I gotta say some words. The positives, I mean, it was entertaining. It was fun enough. I mean, it's just an R-rated, fun romp through Russia with Bert and some odd characters. I think the best part about this film is probably Mark Hamill. Not that I loved his character, but I just love Mark Hamill, so anything that he does I usually will enjoy. It's kind of like Nick Cage, right? Like, no matter how bad the movie might be, if Nicolas Cage is involved in it, I'm going to enjoy myself. So with this, it's like, for all the flaws this film has, and there are many flaws, I mean, it was cool seeing Mark Hamill in a film, and even in a depravity-soaked film such as this one. I think some of the comedy worked for me. There were moments where I did laugh or chuckle. There are some inside jokes for the hardcore fans. There's, whether it's a Thomas Fat joke or a cameo by Bert's actual wife, Leanne, that's used as a quick throwaway joke that I thought was one of the funniest bits of the whole film. It has all the usual beats of a film like this, so there are inherently tropes. I mean, there are some cliches, some of the comedy works, a lot of the comedy is cheesy, the violence is violent, people get stabbed and shot, and there's funny bits here and there. I don't know. I don't have a lot of overwhelmingly positive stuff to say. It's just kind of average, and it has just the beats you'd expect a film like this to have. Trying to stay in that lane of the prose of the film, I think it's somewhat admirable that Bert, as both the performer and the actors, trying to bring his trauma into this in a way and try to, I guess, heal the relationship with his father in this film. He's very self-deprecating in the film. I mean, he is and he isn't. Everybody calls him fat. That's the whole thing. Bert is fat. Everybody calls him fat. He's this fat Rambo, to borrow from Stranger Things. Kind of funny, but getting old and all this. Cool if you can kind of shit on yourself a little bit, so that's fine. And there was one line, I don't know if I can find the clip and put it on here, but there was one line by the Russian gal where her delivery of it just, did I do that? Toward the end, it was funny, I liked it. This film does, the biggest thing I can take away from this film, and it's a big con for me, is it is one of those films that brings to those American Russian stereotypes and just, the whole thing, and we're going to Russia. Okay, everybody knows the stereotypes about Russia. And this whole film hammers that point home where it's oh, in Russia, we do this with the accent and our way of gangsters because we're Russian. Oh, we drink the vodka and we drink a lot and party because we are Russian. Oh, we do this and we shoot and we have the golden guns and the shirtless tattooed muscle man and the family and the honor because we're Russian. Every few minutes once you're in Russia is just them trying to remind you that, oh, we're Russian, we are Russia, we are in Russia. Do not forget, comrade, we are in this place of Russia. We are in this place together. It's like those films where you go to Iraq or Afghanistan and the filter is just yellow and it's all oh, because we're in the desert, oh, watch out for those guys with the hijabs. Watch out for these people. They're the foreign hordes. I don't know, man. It's a stereotype that gets old real fast. And then, although I just gave it a pro for him addressing, the daddy issues and whatnot, I will say this, and this is something that Bert Kreischer has been doing for a while, and I think it's something all performers and entertainers do, and I've been guilty of it myself, but not as egregiously as this. I feel like this film is Daddy Issues the movie, and also him trying to trauma dump and work through the trauma by putting himself up on a pedestal and all this, and he's talked about the problems he's had with his father in the past on various podcasts, and most entertainers that are comedians also have their fair share of trauma and don't have the the healthiest relationships with their family. I mean, myself included in certain respects, but this film was really just like, there are a bunch of scenes where it's like, my dad doesn't understand what I do, and, you know, my dad doesn't even love me, and like, oh, but by the end of it, it's like, oh, my dad came around to see things from my way and my way of thinking and sees the good in me and all this. I'm just like, man, Bert is really trying to say something here. He's really trying to work out his trauma on screen through a movie. The movie is definitely like filleting the ego as well, because the whole movie is about him, not like a character that he plays. Like, this is, he is Bert Kreischer. He is the machine. This is the persona that he has, that shirtless rock star who is funny and entertaining and people love. And this film, you know, as much as there is self-deprecation, there's also that pedestal that he's putting himself on. This is cheesy, where it's like, even Mark Hamill's like, show these SOBs who you are. He's the motherfucking machine. And he gets up there with a shirt off and an AK or a cigar, and he's like, no, you gotta party with me. And just like, I don't know. I'm probably getting on a soapbox here or whatnot. It's not a terrible film, but I did not love this movie. I thought it was alright. If I take my personal enjoyment and then the quality of the film itself, like, if I didn't have the subtext of who this guy was and the backstory of the machine, and even putting aside any vitriol I have for him as a man and as a person, like, that's also not very good. Pros and cons clash and battle just enough where this film only can be passable as, like, it's average, like, it's fine. And to be fair, and he said this on various podcasts when he's talking about this film, because this is his first big blockbuster feature-length film. This is pretty big for him. I'm glad to continue to show you that even like comedians and entertainers can make like films and movies, and I'm sure it's big for him and his family. I don't know how well it did in the box office, but what he did say at the very end of the day, he said, I don't care what the critics say, I made this for the fans. And the fact that he made it for the fans of his, and, you know, for himself for sure, but it's admirable to see that he went out and was like, look, I'm not making the next Oscar-winning film here. I'm not here to make the Whale or Castaway or what have you. I'm here to make a film that's for the fans and is like for the love of the fans, and it's from the love of the fans, and that's why this even exists to begin with. What are entertainers if not for their fans and their audiences? Same thing for content creators. All these people don't exist unless the average populace, or, you know, Joe Schmoes, Jane Does, give them a platform and then spread them and support their performances and all that. So, but I think the fans enjoy it. I don't hate Bert Kreischer. I have a love-hate relationship with him. He's a pretty funny guy. He's had some funny moments, and on the podcasts, he has said some kind of insightful things, and he has had moments where he has done and said some genuinely hilarious things. But I think that he's also not incredibly well-spoken. I think that he can be massively ignorant and disrespectful, and I think that he can just say some dumb, stupid shit sometimes, and does some crazy, wild, unhygienic, weird things that he just is like, oh yeah, it's just how you do it, it's just what it is, you know, it's all okay. But it's coloring my view of the film, because that's all this went into making that film. It's not, oh, he made a film about a character that doesn't exist. No, he made a film about himself. End of the day, it's a movie about him and his story. It is what it is. But I'll be fair. The Machine, I would give a very safe and solid 3 out of 5 to. Once the pros and cons all clash and the battlefield has been cleared out and I've wandered into no man's land to assess the damage, it's an average film. All things considered, it's average. I don't think you gotta catch this one in theaters. At most, stream this one, maybe, but it does not bring anything new to the table or this like sphere of film. It was made for fun, for the fans. I think to really enjoy this film, you kind of have to have like the context and subtext of the history of what led up to this film. But that's all I gotta say about it. So that was my review of The Machine. I put it off long enough. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode or whatever I review next. And goodbye, travelers.